Hey everyone, I just decided to make a build for Magicka Templar for beginners. There's always a lot of in-game content builds and things like that out there for builds, but you don't see a lot of things for beginners that can help people get in and learn rotations and things like that on a more streamlined type of aspect, and it can be quite hard for newer players to get into in-game content. So this build is set up for you can do all in-game content. You can do all vet dungeons with the hard mode. You can do normal trials, vet trials. When you do your vet trials, you'll go into more of an advanced rotation, which there's plenty of rotations you can find online. But for this build, what we're going to do is we're going to have a simple streamlined rotation for beginners. And then as you get more comfortable with the class, you can branch into a more advanced rotation. With this rotation, you can pull about 29k DPS with the simple rotation, but with the same gear and everything, if you go into a more endgame rotation, you can pull 35. So you don't actually have to change your build to do vet trial content. Now, if you wanted to compete for leaderboards and things like that, then you're going to go into more advanced gear sets as well. But by then, you'll also have farmed those sets too. So. But there's lots of guides out there for in-game content, but you don't see too much for beginners. So, and I know Templars have kind of had a bad rap of late, but they're super fun, and you can definitely pull good numbers and do well with them. So with this content, we're going to go over the skills and gear sets. All the gear is overland sets. It's very easy to farm and easy to get. You can actually find them quite cheap too. To buy in the guild stores as well, so you don't have to do any kind of end-game content to get geared for this build, which is nice as well. And the rotation is going to be very, very simple. The bar setups are going to be nice and straightforward, and then you can slowly introduce yourself into more end-game style rotations as you get better with your class and kind of learn mechanics and things like that. So that's kind of the main idea with this build. It's a lot of fun. Templars are probably one of the funnest classes in the game to play. I absolutely love this class. It's so much fun to play. You can still pull really good numbers too. You have to work a little harder than you do with other classes with the way things are, but Templars are not dead by any means. And it's very rewarding, and it's a great beginner class as well because you have self heals, good damage, really fun skills. Use a lot of class skills too, as opposed to just straight weapon skills and things. So you can have a lot of fun with this build as you're learning. It's very rewarding to play as well. So we'll get into the gear sets and the skills, and then after we go through that, I'll try to keep that as quick as possible. Then we'll go into the rotation, and I'll kind of show you like a beginner rotation to get everything going for you, so you can start doing your content. And then, like I said, once you've learned your class and things like that, you can go into a more advanced rotation. You can kind of slowly bring yourself into that rotation. But you won't have to change your build, which is nice too. So you have quite a few options, and just some of the clips here. This is one of the new vet dungeons here that came out in Dragon Bones, and you can see you can hang in the dungeons quite well. It's very easy to do content, and I'm just using the beginner rotation here that I'm going to show you guys. Nothing fancy, and we're still be able to pull numbers. So. You won't have to worry about having a super complex rotation that you have to spend all this time trying to learn. You can start with this one, and then as you get more comfortable with the game, you can advance into those other rotations. But as you can see here, everything works quite well, and your numbers are good even on a basic rotation. So you don't have to be a top 1% player to do the content and have a lot of fun. So without further ado, we'll kind of get into it, and we'll get started.
Your greed has blinded you, Eva. I pray one day you see that.
Okay, so this is the Zomplar. The reason I named it Zomplar is just because I got the zombie skin from the crown crates, and I think that thing looks amazing. That is so badass. Without further ado, we'll get into our stats. We have 43,674 magicka, 19,882 health, 2,667 spell damage, and 42% crit. So all in all, you got really good stats to start off with. You have a lot of health, which is really nice too, especially for beginners. You got 54 into magicka and 10 into health for your attributes. Now I'm running the Apprentice Mundus Stone as well. The stats are really nice for, especially in the beginning, you get a good stat pool. Your health is much higher too. I'm running blue food. As far as the stats go, or sorry, the skills go, puncturing sweeps, this is going to be your spammable. It does decent damage, and it also heals you when you attack, so which really adds to your survivability. So I'll show you how to incorporate that into your spammable, into your rotation. And then Blockade of Storms is your first dot off the destruction skill line. You got Blazing Spear as your second dot out of your Templar class skills. You got Inner Light. I mainly use it for the max magic passive, obviously. The spell crit bonus type thing. Now, Dampened Magic is the light armor shield that I went with. I went with the Dampened Magic one because each piece of light armor worn, you absorb 6% more damage, and then on top of Bastion, you get a very, very strong shield. A lot of people like to go with the I think it's the Harness Magic Morph, where you get resources back when you take damage. But when you're first starting out, your main goal is survivability, and resources don't do you much good if you're dead. Now you can see I have 19.9k health, almost a 20k health bar, and that gives me a 19k shield. So that gives you almost 40k health basically between your health and your shield. So you have, the amount of, when your shield's on, you basically have the health of a tank. Obviously with other resistances, but it's very, very effective for survivability, so I strongly recommend that morph. And later on, as you get used to the class and the game and stuff, if you want to go to the other morph, that's totally optional, right? But when you're first starting out, I would strongly recommend the Dampened Magicka. Now, excuse me. So we have the Destro ulti for our ultimate. Now when we bar swap over, Honor of the Dead on our back bar, that's your Breath of Life heal. So you get a really strong heal, also heals group members as well. Radiant Oppression is your execute. Does quite a bit of damage. You want to keep your dots up though. Vampire's Bane, your other dot. Inner Light on the back bar for the max magic. And we have Purifying Light, which is your other dot that you're going to put on as well. And then Thunderous Rage I have on the back bar just because it's, when you're first starting out, if you have it on the back bar, it's easier to cast your ult, just whichever bar you're on, it doesn't matter. You could always switch the back bar out to like Meteor for the Mage's Guild if you want to level that up or things like that. Now for the gear, we're running Spinners. So you get lots of good stats and then your penetration. The penetration is really going to help you a long way, especially when you're getting going. And we have the Sharpen trait on because we're trying to reach as much penetration as possible with this build. Because when you're in uncoordinated groups or solo, penetration is really going to help your damage. Now, when you get into coordinated groups, you can think in other sets in the future, type of thing. But Spinners is great. It's a great set. Only worry about golding out the staff. Don't worry about golding out like all your gear and stuff like that. When you want to mid-max in the future, go ahead. But when you're first starting out, the spell damage bonus is great for the staffs when you gold it. But everything else is very, very minuscule and not worth the gold type of thing. Now on the back bar, I have an Asylum staff, but you can run another Spinner staff. I just have the Asylum staff on because I'll swap out my heal in coordinated groups if there's an Asylum staff, and I'll put Force Pulse on to apply the Asylum staff bonus for the group. But you can just put another Spinner staff, so you can either run Lightning and Fire staff or Dual Lightning, whatever you want. You can kind of mix and match that type of thing. And if you have the Asylum staff, you want to go that route, you can always do that as well. Grothgar we're running for the monster set. Gives you, some more max magicka, and the damage is quite good on Grothgar, and because you're going to be in melee range using jabs as your spammable, Grothgar is actually quite effective. So, and it's an AoE damage as well, so you'll be able to hit everything in the circle. And the second set is Necropotence. We're running 4 Necro just for straight max stats. We don't need the 5th piece because we're not running a pet, so you won't get the bonus anyways. It also allows you to wear a monster set with the staffs. So we have just basically straight max stats. You can run it infused divines for the traits, whichever you want really. It's up to you. The jewelry, I have just the purple Rakuda glyphs for spell damage. If you run the gold Kudas, it'll give you 174 spell damage per piece of jewelry. But I'm trying to make this build as easy for beginners as possible, newer players, and you might not have the gold for Kudas. So I'm just kind of showing you that it can run with that, and you can upgrade the glyph to the gold Kuda spell damage glyph. You know, as you get the gold, right? And when you're farming for the jewelry and stuff, just get you know, if you get the blue jewelry first, that's fine. Swap the purple in as you get it, you know, type of thing. I bought the spinner staff. I bought it in defending for 3,000 gold, so you can get a lot of this gear in the guild traders for very, very cheap, and then you just trait change the staff to sharpened. I found some of the jewelry I think can still be expensive, so you definitely want to farm that. But you can find spinners and necro like body pieces. If you look around, sometimes you can find them so cheap, like under 5k gold sometimes. I bought all this stuff for under 5k a piece. And then the monster set you get from Cole Harbor, the monster helmet, and then the shoulders you get from the Undaunted Pledges, the chests. Now, as far as rotation goes, for just a basic beginner rotation, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to drop your dots first, and then go into your spammable. So basically how it'll look will be, you'll set up and you'll do your blockade. Then you're going to do your shards, then you're going to bar swap, you're going to do Purifying Light, Vampire's Bane, they're going to swap back, Light Attack, Spammable, Light Attack, Spammable. Then by then your dots will have worn off. They'll be just wearing off when you do the actual rotation, and then you rinse and repeat the dots. Purifying Light, Bane, bar swap, Light Attack, Spammable, Light Attack, Spammable. And you'll see when you do the actual rotation, it'll work, but they'll just kind of fall off right when they're ready to be reapplied. Now, as you get better with the rotation, what you want to do is light attack in between every attack. So what you're going to do is you'll incorporate light attack weaving. So you'll do, excuse me, what you want to do is light attack, dot, light attack, dot, bar swap, light attack, Purifying Light, light attack, Vampire's Bane, back, bar swap back, light attack spammable, reapply, and you'll kind of rinse and repeat. So how it'll look will be very basic rotation, drop your dots, Purifying Light, Vampire's Bane, light attack, spammable, reapply dots, bar swap, Purifying Light, Bane, light attack, spammable, reapply dots, bar swap, Purifying Light, Vampire's Bane, rinse and repeat. That'll be kind of like your basic beginner rotation. We'll have you attack here, get some resources back. So when you're first starting out and you're kind of new to the whole rotation thing, it's nice and simple. You can do decent damage, you can do some dungeons, and kind of learn your rotation. Now, you're gonna, with advanced rotation, you're gonna do a little bit more to where you put your light attacks in between everything. So, as you see here, you're kind of doing that. So you're gonna go light attack, dot, bar swap, Purifying Light, light attack, Vampire's Bane, light attack, spammable, dot, light attack, bar swap, Purifying Light attack, Vampire's Bane, bar swap, light attack, spammable, and reapply dot. So that's kind of how your rotation is going to go. And then as you get more comfortable on that, then you'll move into more advanced rotation where you can start pulling higher numbers, right? You'll go into more of an in-game type scenario. Now this build can take you quite far, and like I said, when you get into like hard mode vet trials and things like that, you're going to want to swap into optimized everything that's kind of group oriented, right? You'll have your end game rotation and your end game gear, you know, type of thing. But in order to get to end game, you have to start somewhere, right? So this is just a nice, fun little build. Great, nice, simple rotation. Not too crazy on bar swapping. I wanted to keep it as simple as possible, so that way people can kind of get in and get used to things. And like I said, just start with your basic rotation at the first. So just drop your dots. So blockade, shards, bar swap, purifying light, vampire's bane, bar swap, then light attack spammable, reapply dots. And rinse and repeat. And then once you're used to that, then incorporate your light attacks in between every single one of those skills. And then, you know, you're good to go. You'll be able to kind of take you, you know, quite far in the game. And then when you want to get into, you know, like really heavy stuff and more top 1% things and stuff like that, you know, you'll have the skills and everything by then, and you'll be able to go into like your end game style content, right, where you're doing, you know, stuff with the big boys kind of thing. You know, this build's a lot of fun. I really hope this helps newer players, and I hope the basic rotation really helps players kind of get in without being overwhelmed and be able to contribute to the groups that they play in without being too overwhelming. Now, as far as champion points go, I had 31 in the Ironclad. You'll kind of set this up depending on your group, and you'll change it up a little bit for trials, more in the Ironclad type thing. But 49 in Element Defender, Hardy. Here you have 19 in Expert Defender, Quick Recovery 11, Bastion 56, just for the bigger shields. The green tree, you basically can do whatever the heck you want. I just have someone to break free because you're always breaking free. Everything stuns you and freezes you and stuff. Arcanist, Tenacity, I have some in there. Mooncalf I have in some as well, just because you're always having a dodge roll or CC break, so the more stam you can bring back because you don't have a big stam pool on a magic class. I have some into reduce block cost and then 20 into tumbling type thing. But you can kind of set those up how you like. The blue tree, 52 Elfborn, 49 Elemental Expert, and 35 into Spell Erosion for the Spell Pen. Now for this year, I have 13 to Master Arms and 35 to Staff Expert, but I actually changed that and put most of the Staff Expert into Master at Arms. I have this set up because I am running a support build that I do in one of my groups where I do more heavy attack and light attacks to apply statuses. So. But for your build, you'll put most of your Staff Expert into Master at Arms to kind of balance that better because you won't need as much in the Staff Expert. Now I have 56 in the Thaumaturge. You can run, you can try to exploit to get the Exploiter passive, put it up to 75, but I mean off balance really isn't nearly as predominant as it used to be, so a lot of people are kind of moving away and putting the points in elsewhere, but again, that's entirely up to you. If you guys want to adjust your CP to what you feel you need in your group and stuff, by all means, it's completely changeable, right? So, and as far as off balance goes, you want to, that's when you want to do your heavy attacks if you feel you need to get back resources, because you have such a short window. As soon as you see that off balance, that's when you want to apply your heavy attacks to get the resource bonus that you have now. But anyways, I hope this build helps. I hope you know, beginners are able to kind of start out and enjoy you know, magplar DPS. I mean, it's not dead, it's a lot of fun. And like I said, you can get to you know, endgame content very easily with this build. Now, as far as penetration, we have quite a bit of penetration to try to get you as close to pen cap as possible. We have the pen from spinners, you have the sharpened staff, we have quite a bit in our CP tree 3000, and then you have in your light armor tree, you also have 4,884 as well. So you get a lot of pen with this build, which will really help ramp up your damage. You'll be close to pen cap when the tank applies puncture, or the pierce armor morph, sorry. You'll be able to run, and if you have your healer running inner light, some of the resource bonuses and stuff are good. So it's you know, it's a great build. It's a lot of fun. Like I said, it'll help kind of get you guys going. if you're new to the game, and if you're already at end game, well, you won't need this build. But you know, for newer players, I hope this really helps. I like the idea of setting up some builds for newer players, because there really isn't much out there for people who are just getting into the game. Everything out there is designed for end game content, advanced rotations, and if you're a newer player, that can be a little overwhelming. And it's nice to be able to kind of ease into things and have fun while you're doing it, as well as contributing to the group. Now it's very nice to be able to kind of just go in, have fun, and still be a contribution when you're newer, instead of just running. You see a lot of new players, all they're doing is heavy attacking because they don't really know how to do resources and stuff. So hopefully this helps. I hope you guys have fun, and take care, guys. We'll see you in the next one.